ARRI is first and foremost a film company. And when we made these very sophisticated lenses, we thought, wouldn't it be fun if we brought back a little bit of an opportunity to introduce retro techniques to soften or diffuse or just create more interesting and creative images. The rear magnetic holder was made to hold fabrics of any sort. Just go to a fabric store and buy whatever you want. The possibilities are endless. But we also found that we can take very simple optical elements, diopters, and put them into these holders and create some really fascinating looks that bring back the sense and the feel of, say, 1940s, 1950s filmmaking. So this is an ARRI Signature Prime, and on the back we have the rear magnetic holder. Now this is meant to hold a net, and there's actually a little slot for a rubber band around the edge. I believe it's in the US it's a number 12, and you can buy these online fairly easily. And what you do is you stretch the net over the top of it, and you wrap the rubber band around, and you trim the net, and then you just pop it on the back. There's 12 magnets, and if the net has a pattern to it that needs to lay a certain way, if you line it up with this little witness mark, there's a little white witness mark on the front, and there's a witness mark on the top of the lens. You can just line those up, and you can actually rotate and get the pattern oriented exactly the way you want, and you can do that across the entire lens set. But the other thing you can do is you can put a very inexpensive optical element in here. This is a diopter. I think it's a positive 2.5, so it's a pretty strong effect. Just goes right on the back. And this will change the entire look of the lens. It'll introduce a vintage lens feel. It won't feel completely vintage because this is a very sophisticated lens, but it will distort both the foreground and the background in some really interesting ways. When you add one of these diopters to the back of a Signature Prime, you should look at 3 different areas for effects: the point of focus, the background, and then the edges of the frame. At the point of focus, you'll see spherical aberration, and what this does is it adds a diffuse quality, but it's a very unique look. It's almost as if you're taking a soft out-of-focus image and overlaying it on top of the sharp image. So you have a sharp and soft image at the same time. It's a very interesting look. One of the most significant changes you'll see with the addition of a rear diopter is in the background. Bokeh describes not just the quality of highlights in an image, but the entire quality of the out-of-focus image, and diopters change that in a fundamental way. A positive diopter will change highlights so that they go dark in the center, and they show hot edges, almost like a donut shape. But this affects everything about the background image. It preserves textures. The background will seem harder and a little bit more harsh. A negative diopter will take highlights and make them hot in the center, and they bleed off around the edges. So backgrounds actually will blend overall and become much softer. It's a very interesting vintage look. A positive diopter will smear objects at the edges of the frame towards the center, almost as if it's pulling things in. A negative diopter will do the opposite. It will smear objects but away from the center of the frame. It's a very interesting effect. There are some side effects. A positive diopter will make the image a little bigger. A negative diopter will make the image a little smaller. Also, these diopters will change how the lens focuses. A positive diopter will prevent the lens from reaching infinity, but it will move your close focus point a little closer to the lens. The negative diopter does the opposite. It pushes close focus a little farther away, but you can still focus at infinity. Now, obviously, this messes up your focus marks. The lenses will have to be reshimmed, but we're trying to make this as easy as possible, and our plan is to provide data on how to exactly shim each lens to compensate for the diopters we're sending. For a long time now, the fashion has been to use vintage lenses, rehoused lenses, or any one of the dozens of different new brands of lenses that are being made with deliberate aberrations to emulate the look of vintage lenses. And that tide is turning now that we're moving towards more immersive display technologies like UHD and 4K and 8K, where all these aberrations are multiplied by about 10. So what we're trying to do is to give you a new look that works with these new technologies, that has a beautiful new combination of visual characteristics that's never been seen before, but also give you the option of introducing all these older vintage characteristics in a controllable way, so you really have an all-in-one lens. If you have any questions at all about ARRI signature primes or using behind-the-lens nets or diopters, please get in touch with me. You can reach me at lenses@arri.com.